everybody, to another episode of Command Combat Battle Reports. Today we are doing Saga, the Anglo Saxons versus Yomsvikings and the Vikings. It is a 4-player battle, 2 players versus 2 players. The Vikings are together against the Anglo Saxons, of course. And they're currently setting up the table. Looks like both teams want a line of woods down the center with a building there. There is also one house down there near the bottom, and some cows hanging out near a couple of wagons. I don't think they're going to have anything to do with the battle, so they are today's spectators. Now, a couple words of warning here. Once the armies get into contact with each other, I may not know who's on whose side, and when it comes to Hearthguard versus Warriors versus Levy, forget it, I'm not even going to know which is which. I think the main thing to keep track of here are the Warlords. You can see them, they're pretty prominently out there. But it should be a really good fight nonetheless. You may notice that one of the armies is all gray. They haven't been painted yet. Yes, the guy has been flogged. There's our local musician for today. And here's our completed setup. The Vikings are on the right, and the Anglo Saxons are on the left. Whoa, whoa, wait. We got a late arrival to the field. The Anglo Saxon cavalry is just arriving. The Vikings started off by pushing forward into the woods. That's a good Viking beginning when you just rush forward like that. The question is, how much are they going to be fatiguing themselves in the process? Are they going to be impatient and wear themselves out?
We obey to bring his Dane axes with him. And
Man with the head. And naked madness.
and I am done too.
And the Anglo-Saxons counter by pushing forward as well. The Anglo-Saxon archers get first blood by hitting one of the Vikings who's coming through the woods. Ooh, rape and pillage for me! The Vikings counter by firing, and by rushing into that cavalry.
And slam into the Saxon dogs.
That's Yomsvikings for you. They get along with the beasts as well as they do any human. Probably more so. Those near the center go around the building.
One's out.
And the ones with the cavalry take out one of the horsemen. Probably stop for a meal on the horse as well. And the cavalry get the better of them by taking out a whole handful of those warriors. And the Yomsvikings are backed into the woods. The 3 survivors. Wow. That was pretty devastating.
Go forward!
The cows, meanwhile, decided to set up a chariot and get themselves out of there.
Step aside for the cow king!
The Yomsvikings are going to try to get revenge on that cavalry unit.
It is I, the king of cows!
They're coming at them from a couple of different angles. They take out one horseman, and the horsemen take out 2 of them. These charges are not working in favor of the Vikings, but they are slowly chopping down the horsemen. The Warlord is going up there with, I believe, a Hearthguard behind him. And the unpainted men slowly make their way up. That's what happens when you don't paint your miniatures. They move very slowly. The cows, meanwhile, now have their chariot ready. The unpainted Anglo-Saxons are now crossing over to the other side of the board. Looks like both players are going to try to concentrate on the Yomsvikings. The archers fire and take out 3 of the Yomsvikings. That is pretty devastating for them. Archers are not usually that effective in this game.
Lucky you.
Emboldened, the Anglo-Saxons are now pushing forward on all fronts.
No, I know. None of the example terrain.
It's a big rumble there in the center. The Vikings lose several guys. The Anglo-Saxons only lose 1. I'm seeing a pattern here. Alright, so here's the situation so far here on the field. Both sides moved up like in many Saga games. They met at a certain point. The Vikings did not fare as well in their combats and pulled back. And the Anglo-Saxons have taken advantage of the situation and pushed through here and here. You notice that there's also a gap down here, and the Anglo-Saxons have some cavalry. They can really push through there and be in the Viking rear very quickly. However, I'm not sure how much you want to be in a Viking's rear. The cows, meanwhile, have gotten their chariot together, and we really don't know what side they're going to be on. Are they going to strike here? Are they going to strike there? We just don't know what side bovines prefer. How does it look down there on the field, Yankee Odin? Well, I have to say, my Vikings are doing so bad, it's making my child cry here. Well, let's keep going and see if the Vikings can do any better. The Viking archers pick off another man, and they countercharge in the center. They send some others on their left, one of them going, "Boo, I'm scary!" Ah!
Want to live forever?
In the center, the Anglo Saxons now are losing quite a few troops. And the Vikings too are taking a lot. This is just a meat grinder on both sides. But the Anglo Saxons are forced to withdraw on one part,
That's why they had to run away.
and the Vikings have to pull back on the other.
Sorry.
But the Vikings come back in the center yet again. And the Yomsviking Warlord comes out. This is a risky move, but it could pay off. And the Anglo-Saxons take quite a bit of damage and do a little bit back to the Vikings. And the Warlord Gambit pays off. They decimate the rest of that unit that was there. And another Viking unit runs up and fills in that gap, attacking those horsemen. And they take them out, taking one loss as well. Unfortunately, it's the naked man. Well, I guess that's what happens when you don't wear any armor. And the Anglo-Saxons on the far left move in on some of the Viking infantry. And they rush to that center. Everybody is really wanting that center building there. The Anglo-Saxon archers are slowly moving forward. And the Vikings once again get the worst side of that center battle. They are just bleeding men. The Anglo-Saxons are following up their victory with bringing in more infantry. They just seem to have an unlimited supply. The Vikings, not wanting to get flanked, go in and face the Anglo-Saxons head-on. And they also go attack the archers on their left flank. The unpainted Anglo-Saxons have to pull back. Again, that's what happens when you don't paint your minis. And the archers are getting slaughtered. Yeah, that's a pretty common sight. The Vikings are pushing again at the center. I think this is going to just come down to who's the last man standing down there. And the archers get chopped down to one single man left. And now the bovine chariot is coming in.
The Vikings we have paid for have arrived, and it is now our time to live.
Queen, follow closely.
No longer shall we live under the yoke, except for you two.
Now the minstrel and his merry men, one of them carrying a severed head, are marching forward. You notice that one of them is actually chopping his arm and the other one is about ready to stab him. It's pretty bad singing, apparently. This is the head of the last man who sang Kumbaya. The Warlord is pushing forward with his Hearthguard. And the meat grinder in the center continues. Looks like once again the Vikings have the short end of the stick on this one. Pun very much intended. Oh, and the Yomsviking Hearthguard along with the Warlord just slaughter the men in front of them. That unit just disintegrated. The unpainted Anglo-Saxons, having no luck with the Viking infantry, are now going to go after the archers. The Anglo-Saxon Warlord on his horse is going to go challenge the Yomsviking Warlord. He's backed up by a bunch of infantry. I think that this might be leve infantry because there's a lot of them and they're not well armored, and one of them's even carrying a torch. Looks like the levies take out a couple of the Hearthguard, and the Hearthguard come back at them, slaughtering a few of them and making the rest retreat. The Viking archers continue to peck away at the unpainted horde coming at them, and the Yomsvikings send in some more troops at their Warlord. And in a surprising turn of events, they managed to kill off the Warlord. I'm not sure why the levies didn't take the damage in that one, but the Warlord is dead. The levies come back and kill two of the Hearthguard, but they're not going to be able to replace that Warlord. The Yomsvikings come charging back in and with all of their wrath, as they usually do. Their Warlord is in amongst them. This is not going to be a pleasant day to be a levy. As predicted, a couple of them got hit and the rest went back. Actually, I expected all of them to get slaughtered, to be honest. The unpainted Anglo-Saxons continue to shift over. They really want that center. Now here's the overall picture once again. As you can tell, the Yomsvikings have managed to push through at the bottom. Despite their many setbacks, they have stubbornly continued to push forward, have gotten up there, have killed the Warlord, and many of the rest of the Anglo-Saxons have been pushed back. The center, meanwhile, continues to be a meat grinder. This is going to come down to one guy left. And nothing happens up here near the top. They just seem to be running back and forth like on a Benny Hill episode. Yeah, and once again the Vikings are pushed back in the center. And once again the Yomsvikings push the levies back. They are, however, starting to get exhausted, as you can tell by the beads. The Vikings now seem to be converging on the center, including sending their minstrel and his merry men along there. And the Yomsvikings exploit a gap to get the Anglo-Saxons in the flank. It is a hard-hitting blow in which it looks like they got everybody. No, wait, there's one more.
Hello. I'm actually a Saxon.
The one man pulls back into the bovine chariot. The bovine chariot is down. It is down. It is having to stumble back. They're slowly getting back to their feet, but I don't know if they'll be able to recover from this. Maybe they'll get set up for another attack. And the minstrels continue on past Odin, or whoever else that is. I've chopped off one arm, I'm going to try to chop off the other. And now the warlord of the unpainted Anglo-Saxons are coming in. He is really getting serious about that cinder. He was winning it before, but now he's going to have to get real serious about that. He's also throwing a lot of his warriors in to try to take out that Yomsviking warlord. The warlord chops down one of them, and they manage to take him down. Just the sheer weight of all those bodies must have crushed them. The Vikings now see a gap and are rushing forward to try to hit that warlord, the Silver Surfer. They charge in. They are going to be exhausted, but they're going to get in there. And 3 of them bounce off the Silver Surfer's metal body. Only 1 of them left. The Silver Surfer fights with a lot of might. Look at all those 6s and a couple of 5s. That is rolling like I have never seen. He has just slaughtered that Viking unit that came up to him. The Vikings now try another unit, running up at him from the other side. This is like one of those action films where the bad guys politely come at the good guys one at a time. But is the Silver Surfer really the good guy? Well, he chopped down a Viking with another great roll. Silver Surfer apparently knows how to roll dice. He needs to go to Vegas. And the Vikings throw in probably their last unit into the center there, going right into the meat grinder. They lose 2 more soldiers. They do no damage, so they have to pull back. The unpainted Anglo-Saxons go in to try to take out the one remaining Viking that's over there.
It was a massacre of one dude. The Scalds are not going to sing.
The Vikings, meanwhile, try to pull back. They know they can't take on the Silver Surfer. And the Silver Surfer runs up there with a bunch of his men to try to finish them off. They kill off a few more Vikings, but the Warlord is in there. He chops away and just takes out a whole bunch of the stands coming at him. But there are just enough left to take him out. And that will be game. The Anglo-Saxons have won it. It was a real grinder of a fight. There was a lot of death on both sides. I would not have wanted to be there. But the Anglo-Saxons have come out victorious in the end. And worst of all, the Anglo-Saxons have gotten into the interior of the Vikings' lines and slaughtered all the cows. They will be having a feast tonight. Well, that'll do it for us here at Game Empire with Command Combat Battle Reports. Thank you all for watching, and be sure to subscribe. And happy gaming, everybody!